It's August the 12th. Let's read the Bible. Friends, welcome back to this year-long journey from Genesis to Revelation in just 1 year. We are on the Bible bus. We are chugging our way along, and here we've come to the middle of August, and we are coming near the end of the great book of Job. So glad to have you with us today. Now, a few weeks ago, Marlene and I were at Word of Life Pines. That's in Pottersville, New York. As Jack Wertchen used to say, high, 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 up in the Adirondack Mountains. And one day before I was going to give my message at the Bible conference that morning, I was out walking on the track there, the track around the soccer field. And there was a young family, a mother, a father, a little baby boy, and a little girl. And they stopped me, and the mom and dad introduced themselves, and they said they had been watching our videos. And they introduced me to their daughter, Melody, who she said was, the little girl told me she was 3.5 years old. And the reason they stopped me is because Melody, the little girl, had been watching the videos with her parents. And when she saw me on the track, she pointed to me and said, "There's the Bible reading man." I gotta say, that's probably the nicest compliment anybody's given me in a long, long time. To have anybody say about me, I'm the Bible reading man. Well, that's what I've been doing this year. And so, Melody, if you're watching this video with your parents, hello, thank you. It was sure good to meet you. And friends, I'm just glad you're along for the journey. Now today, we're going to read Job 31, 32, 33, and 34. Job 31 is the final chapter of Job's final discourse. That began several chapters ago. He talked about God's wisdom. He talked about what he had lost. He talked about what he had suffered, how these worthless people, they started to make fun of him and how humiliating that was. Now in chapter 31, he's going to declare one final time his innocence. Then we're going to meet in chapter 32 somebody new, a young man by the name of Elihu. And he is going to first rebuke those three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. That's going to be chapter 32. Then he's going to rebuke Job in chapter 33. And then in chapter 34, Elihu is going to begin to defend the Lord against both the misunderstanding of the three friends and Job's own misunderstandings. Now, that's where we're going in today's reading. Let's start in chapter 31. This is Job talking. He's going to declare his innocence in 7 different areas. Job 31. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I look at a young woman? For what portion would I have from God above? Or what inheritance from the Almighty on high? Doesn't disaster come to the unjust and misfortune to evildoers? Does he not see my ways and number all my steps? If I have walked in falsehood or my foot has rushed to deceit, let God weigh me on accurate scales, and he will recognize my integrity. If my step is turned from the way, my heart has followed my eyes, or impurity has stained my hands, let someone else eat what I have sown, and let my crops be uprooted. If my heart has gone astray over a woman, or I have lurked at my neighbor's door, let my own wife grind grain for another man, and let other men sleep with her. For that would be a disgrace. It would be an iniquity deserving punishment. For it is a fire that consumes down to Abaddon. It would destroy my entire harvest. If I have dismissed the case of my male or female servants when they made a complaint against me, what could I do when God stands up to judge? How should I answer him when he calls me to account? Did not the one who made me in the womb also make them? Did not the same God form us both in the womb? If I have refused the wishes of the poor, or let the widow's eyes go blind, if I have eaten my few crumbs alone without letting the fatherless eat any of it, for from my youth I raised him as his father, and since the day I was born I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone dying for lack of clothing, or a needy person without a cloak, if he did not bless me while warming himself with the fleece from my sheep, if I ever cast my vote against a fatherless child, when I saw that I had support in the city gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my back, and my arm be pulled from its socket. For disaster from God terrifies me, and because of his majesty, I could not do these things. If I place my confidence in gold, or called fine gold, my trust, if I rejoice because my wealth is greater, because my own hand has acquired so much, if I have gazed at the sun when it was shining, or at the moon moving in splendor, so that my heart was secretly enticed, and I threw them a kiss, this would also be an iniquity deserving punishment, for I would have denied God above. Have I rejoiced over my enemy's distress, or become excited when trouble came his way? I have not allowed my mouth to sin by asking for his life with a curse. Haven't the members of my household said, who is there who has not had enough to eat at Job's table? No stranger had to spend the night on the street, for I opened my door to the traveler. Have I covered my transgressions as others do, by hiding the iniquity in my heart? Because I greatly feared the crowds, and because the contempt of the clans terrified me. So I grew silent and would not go outside. If only I had someone to hear my case. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Let my opponent compose his indictment. I would surely carry it on my shoulder and wear it like a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. I would approach him like a prince. If my land cries out against me, and its furrows join in weeping, if I have consumed its produce without payment, or shown contempt for its tenants, then let thorns grow instead of wheat, and stinkweed instead of barley. The words of Job are concluded. It's a bit much, I think. Most of us would have a hard time talking this way, but in Job's defense, few, if any of us, have ever been pushed to the absolute extremity that Job was pushed to. And he says this after arguing with these three friends who are miserable comforters who've accused him of every sin in the book. I think Job's argument is not that he is sinless, but I think his argument is that whatever he's done, whatever wrongs he's done, they do not merit what has happened to him. So now, Job is done. We're going to meet a man named Elihu, chapter 32. So these three men quit answering Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite from the family of Ram, became angry. He was angry at Job because he had justified himself rather than God. He was also angry at Job's three friends because they had failed to refute him and yet had condemned him. Did you get that? They couldn't answer him, and yet they condemned him anyway. Now, verse 4. Now Elihu had waited to speak to Job because they were all older than he. But when he saw that the three men could not answer Job, he became angry. So Elihu, son of Barachel the Buzite, replied, I am young in years while you are old. Therefore I was timid and afraid to tell you what I know. I thought that age should speak and maturity should teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in a person, the breath from the Almighty, that gives anyone understanding. It is not only the old who are wise, or the elderly who understand how to judge. Therefore I say, listen to me. I too will declare what I know. Look, I waited for your conclusions. I listened to your insights. As you sought for words, I paid close attention to you. Yet no one proved Job wrong. Not one of you refuted his arguments. So do not claim we have found wisdom. Let God deal with him, not man. But Job has not directed his argument to me, and I will not respond to him with your arguments. Job's friends are dismayed and can no longer answer. Words have left them. Should I continue to wait now that they are silent? Now that they stand there and no longer answer? I too will answer. Yes, I will tell what I know, for I am full of words, and my spirit compels me to speak. My heart is like unvented wine. It is about to burst like new wineskins. I must speak so that I can find relief. I must open my lips and respond. I will be partial to no one, and I will not give anyone an undeserved title, for I do not know how to give such titles. Otherwise, my Maker would remove me in an instant. So, Elihu has said, Job has justified himself, but not God. But you three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, you haven't helped the situation at all. You haven't answered Job. So Elihu, this young man, chapter 33, but now, Job, pay attention to my speech and listen to all my words. I'm going to open my mouth. My tongue will form words on my palate. My words come from an upright heart, and my lips speak with sincerity what they know. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. Refute me if you can. Prepare your case against me. Take your stand. I am just like you before God. I was also pitched off from a piece of clay. Fear of me should not terrify you. No pressure from me should weigh you down. Surely you have spoken in my hearing, and I have heard these very words. I am pure without transgression. I am clean and have no iniquity. But he finds reasons to oppose me. He regards me as his enemy. He puts my feet in the stocks. He stands watch over all my paths. But I tell you that you are wrong in this matter, since God is greater than man. Why do you take him to court for not answering anything a person asks? For God speaks time and again, but a person may not notice it. In a dream, a vision in the night. When deep sleep comes over people as they slumber on their beds, he uncovers their ears and terrifies them with warnings in order to turn a person from his actions and suppress the pride of a person. God spares his soul from the pit, his life from crossing the river of death. A person may be disciplined on his bed with pain and constant distress in his bones, so that he detests bread and his soul despises his favorite food. His flesh wastes away to nothing, and his unseen bones stick out. He draws near to the pit, and his life to the executioners. If there's an angel on his side, one mediator out of 1,000, to tell a person what is right for him and to be gracious to him and say, spare him from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom. Then his flesh will be healthier than in his youth, and he will return to the days of his youthful vigor. He will pray to God, and God will delight in him. That person will see his face with a shout of joy, and God will restore his righteousness to him. He will look at men and say, I have sinned and perverted what was right, and yet I did not get what I deserved. He redeemed my soul from going down to the pit, and I will continue to see the light. God certainly does all these things 2 or 3 times to a person in order to turn him back from the pit, so that he may shine with the light of life. Pay attention, Job. Listen to me. Be quiet, and I will speak. But if you have something to say, answer me. Speak, for I would like to justify you. If not, then listen to me. Be quiet, and I will teach in wisdom. There's something new here in chapter 33 that Eliphaz and Bildad and Zophar never brought up, and that is the instructive purposes of our suffering. God uses pain and sadness. God uses calamity. God uses sickness to bring us to the place where we turn to him. That these are not things that simply happen at random, and they're not simply, quote, judgments for personal sin, but that God is using the things that happen to us to bring us to our knees, so that, as the saying goes, when you hit bottom, you got no place else to go, you look up and see the Lord. That's something we really haven't talked about so far. So Elihu was saying, God is doing something. Job, are you paying attention? Now, chapter 34, then Elihu continued saying, hear my words, you wise ones, and listen to me, you knowledgeable ones. Doesn't the ear test words as the palate tastes food? Let us judge for ourselves what is right. Let us decide together what is good. For Job has declared, I am righteous, yet God has deprived me of justice. Would I lie about my case? My wound is incurable, though I am without transgression. What man is like Job? He drinks derision like water. He keeps company with evildoers and walks with wicked men. For he has said, a man gains nothing when he becomes God's friend. Job was wrong to say that. He did say it. He was wrong to say it. I'm just interjecting here into Elihu's argument. He's right. Right. Verse 10, therefore listen to me, you men of understanding. It is impossible for God to do wrong and for the Almighty to act unjustly. For he repays a person according to his deeds and gives him what his conduct deserves. Indeed, it is true that God does not act wickedly, and the Almighty does not pervert justice. Who gave him authority over the earth? Who put him in charge of the entire world? If he put his mind to it and withdrew the spirit and breath he gave, every living thing would perish together, and mankind would return to the dust. If you have understanding, hear this. Listen to what I have to say. Could one who hates justice govern the world? Will you condemn the mighty righteous one who says to a king, worthless man, and to nobles, wicked men? God is not partial to princes and does not favor the rich over the poor, for they are all the work of his hands. They die suddenly in the middle of the night. People shudder, then pass away. Even the mighty are removed without effort, for his eyes watch over a man's ways, and he observes all his steps. There is no darkness, no deep darkness where evildoers can hide. God does not need to examine a person further, that one should approach him in court. He shatters the mighty without an investigation and sets others in their place. Therefore, he recognizes their deeds and overthrows them by night, and they are crushed. In full view of the public, he strikes them for their wickedness, because they turned aside from following him and did not understand any of his ways, but caused the poor to cry out to him, and he heard the outcry of the needy. But when God is silent, who can declare him guilty? Just pause right there. That's a really important statement. We'll come back to it. But when God is silent, who can declare him guilty? When he hides his face, who can see him? Yet he watches over both individuals and nations, so that godless men should not rule or ensnare the people. Suppose someone says to God, I've endured my punishment. I will no longer act wickedly. Teach me what I cannot see. If I have done wrong, I won't do it again. Should God repay you on your terms? When you have rejected his, you must choose, not I. So declare what you know. Reasonable men will say to me, along with the wise men who hear me, Job speaks without knowledge. His words are without insight. If only Job were tested to the limit, because his answers are like those of wicked men. For he adds rebellion to his sin. He scornfully claps in our presence, while multiplying his words against God. This is pretty tough stuff here. But it just comes to this verse 29 really comes to the heart of the human dilemma, doesn't it? When God is silent, that is, when he doesn't explain himself, who can declare him guilty? Job has been saying, he's been saying over and over again, if I can only get the Lord into the courtroom, if I could just declare my case. You don't want that. You know, the old thing, justice or mercy. If you want justice, you can have it, but you won't be happy with the result. When God is silent, who can declare him guilty? We dare not do that, friends. God knows what he's doing. And there are times when simply we don't. When we see the pain and suffering around us, I was going to say when we see our own pain, but I think often it's when it's our spouse, or wife, or husband, our parents, especially when it's our children, our grandchildren, when we see the hardship of life, and when something happens to our loved ones, and we don't understand. The only choice we have then is either to continue to trust in him or to turn away from him. And as it has been said, if in the time of trouble we turn away from God, how will that improve anything? How will anything get better if we turn away from the source of life itself? How will anything get better if we turn from the light to the darkness? Into the darkness, if we go that way, is only hopelessness and despair. So God knows what he's doing. At the heart of the book of Job is not really the question of suffering. It's the question of the sovereignty of God. Do we have a God who is sovereign even over the unexplained parts of life? That's the God we need. In the time of great trouble, we need a great God. And we have one. Our God is sovereign. We can trust him. So, with that confidence and in that hope, even if necessary sometimes through our tears, let us go out and have a great day. Let's have a godly day. Let's trust in the Lord. Come back tomorrow. There is a lot more to come in the book of Job. See you then.